We've created a projectile now, and we've got a character. So it's time for us to actually hook this up to have the ability to throw projectiles. Now I'm going to open up my character base, and I'm going to go to that stub we created a long time ago called TryMagic. Now what TryMagic is going to do is it's going to try to create a projectile that we can throw at someone. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check, are we flinching? So I'm going to go branch, I'm going to set this up, and if we're flinching, we don't want to do anything. If we're not flinching, then we want to throw it. So how are we going to do this? Well, if I go spawn actor from class, I can create a projectile. Now, as a quick test, I'm just going to rig this up and see how it goes. So the first thing that we're going to look at is this spawn transform. So this spawn transform refers to where it's going to get created from. Now this is an interesting issue because we need to make sure that we're actually throwing the projectile out of the player. So it's kind of like being propelled away from us and from a good position. Now for the time being, what I'm going to do for testing is I'm going to get a position that is in front of the player. So I'm just going to add an arrow component, and I'm going to drag this up and just place it here. Compile, save, and I'm going to go back to my event graph, and I'm just going to get the arrow, which again is just a temporary measure, and I'm going to get the world transform and set that up as the spawn transform for this actor. Compile, save. Now if I was to go into the world and just right click, I'm not getting any functionality out of it. Now the reason I'm not getting any functionality out of it is that I'm going to go to input. I can see that magic attack has been bound to right mouse button, but I'm going to follow this logic through, and I'm going to go to the player controller base. And if I look in here, we've currently set up events for melee attack, but not magic attack. So I'm going to copy what I have here, duplicate it with Control W, and all I'm going to do here is, instead of calling try melee, I'm going to call TryMagic. And there we have it. I'm now throwing magic out of it. And that magic is then bouncing around the world and acting kind of dangerous. And it exists for 5 seconds. Now, the thing that our magic is currently not doing is I can't actually hit anyone with it. Okay? So, it's time for us to go through and add the functionality that would allow it to explode when it hits a pawn. So I'm going to go to my event graph in my projectile base, and I'm going to start setting this up so that when it hits a player, it'll actually explode. So, to do this, what I'm going to do is on overlap, I'm going to cast to character. Whoops. Cast to, now not just any character, but the character base. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this is the instigator. Now I haven't actually set the instigator up yet, so back in character base I'm going to get this little variable that says instigator and just get a reference to myself. This tells the projectile that the person that created it is me. Now next up I'm going to go here and I'm just going to see if this is equal to get instigator. Now, if this is equal to the instigator, so if it's overlapping me, then I don't want it to explode. I want this magic to be only hurting enemies. If we want to, I could get rid of this check and we could set some other stuff up, but for the time being, I'm just going to set it up to only hurt enemies. Now we've done that, so the next thing for us to set up is we want to then go, okay, well we know it's not us, but we are still overlapping a pawn. So instead I'm going to go to damage, and you can see that we have the apply damage function, and we're going to go off of this in the exact same way that we did before, whereby if this is false, we're going to apply damage, and the instigator is going to be the controller of the pawn that we're referencing. So if I get my pawn reference from this, I'm going to now go controller, and I'm going to get controller and connect that to there. Now the damage causer is going to be a reference to self, and the base damage that we're going to deal when we hit someone with magic, for the time being I'm just going to set it to 50. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is set up the destroy function. So at the moment, I could just play the effect and then destroy it. It's really up to us as to whether we want the projectiles to always explode in like a fiery ball, or if when they don't hit anything, we want them to just disappear. Now, if we do want them to explode, then I might as well get event destroyed and set this up so that when it's destroyed, it's play, spawn location. Spawn emitter at location, spawns at actor location, so it's spawning where we are, and the thing that it's spawning is the impulse. So I could set that up, which means that after I apply damage, if I then just destroy myself, so destroy actor, it'll now play this. So if I throw that around, I need to get into a place that I'm going to still see it in 5 seconds time. There you go. So you saw it explode in the corner just then. So we know that that's working. And if I was to go here, you can see that when I right click at the player, it's actually dealing damage to her. So we actually had just created an attack that was working and fully functional, and I'm able to throw it, and they'll actually detonate after 5 seconds of life. Now that I think about it, 5 seconds was probably excessive. So that's it for the basics of getting a projectile together. It's time for us to now go out and set up a spawner that's going to keep players coming at us.